Welcome back, learners. Let us look at our first concept, which is objects around the sun. Now, the sun and other objects in region of space around it are known as the solar system. All right? And if you look at the picture on my right-hand side, shows clearly what the solar system looks like. Now, the objects that are around the sun, we have the planets, we have the dwarf planets, moons, asteroids, ice, as well as dust. Now, these are the objects that are around the sun. The sun is at the center of the solar system. And as we go on, we will be specific about the different types of the objects and we'll look at them individually. Now that we looked at the objects around the sun, let us move on to the second concept, which is the planets. Now, a round body traveling around a star in a clear circular motion, it is referred to as a planet. Okay? And now, for an object to be classified as a planet, there are three important descriptions a planet must meet. So number one, in order for an object to be referred to as a planet, it must be able to travel around the sun in a regular circular path called an orbit. And for it to be referred to as a planet, it must have a spherical shape. It should be able to keep its orbital path clear of other objects. Now, let me just repeat it so that it's clear. We are saying that in order for an object to be classified as a planet, these are the three components that we look at. One, the object must be able to travel around the sun in a regular circular path called an orbit. And two, it should be almost spherical in shape. And three, it should be able to keep its orbital path clear of other objects. Now, this part means that when this particular object orbits around the sun, it's not supposed to collide with other objects. So it must make sure that its path is clear in order for it to be referred to as a planet. Now, there are 8 planets that orbit the sun around our solar system. Now, we have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Now remember the order in which they follow each other according to the distance away from the sun. Okay, so this is the order of how the planets follow each other from the sun. Now, for you to remember, you need to use the following sentence. We can say, my very elderly. I'm just going to write them in capital letters so that you see that the first part, it's the sentence is going to start with capital letters so that you can be able to see the capital letters representing the types of planets. Okay, so my very elderly, so this will be elderly, mother for Mars, just for Jupiter, served us noodles. Okay, I hope you are able to see that. Now let us see how the sentence is going to help you remember the order of how the planets follow each other from the sun. If you see the capital letter M will be for Mercury, and then very capital letter V for Venus, and then elderly capital letter E for Earth, and then mother capital letter M for Mars, and just capital letter J there for Jupiter, and served capital letter S therefore Saturn, and then capital letter U for Uranus, and noodles capital letter N for Neptune. I hope this sentence is going to help you remember the order of the planets from the sun. All right. Now, please do not make the following mistake, thinking that Pluto is a planet. I'm very much aware that in some test books, in some books that you have at school, because they're very old books, sometimes they still include Pluto as the 9th planet. Now, remember that Pluto, it is not a planet. It has then been discovered that Pluto, it is a dwarf planet. Why? Because Pluto does not form part of all those three characteristics that makes up a planet. Pluto does not make its path clear of other objects when it orbits around the sun. So that is why Pluto can no longer be classified as a planet. Okay, I hope we correct that mistake, that we no longer have 9 planets, we have 8 planets. Pluto, it is a dwarf planet. Okay, now these planets, they have different sizes and they rotate on their own axis. They revolve around the sun at different speeds and have their own orbit. As we have already said, that Pluto cannot be part of the 8th planet because it does not make that path clear of its own orbit. All right. Now, let's look at the different types of planets being divided into 2. Let's look at how we divide the planets into 2. All right. Now, scientists have divided the 8 planets into 2 groups. Right? So we have the first one, the inner rocky planets. Okay, these are the inner rocky planets. We refer them to as the inner rocky planets because they are made up of rocks. So the examples of the inner rocky planets, we have Mercury, we have Venus, we have Earth, as well as Mars. So these are the 4 inner rocky planets. They are referred to inner rocky planets because they are made up of rocks. And because of that, they are then referred to as terrestrial planets. All right. Now, please do not think that all planets are rocky planets. Not all planets are rocky planets. I'm well aware that most of us would think that because we are living in planet Earth, and because planet Earth is a rocky planet, you would think that all of the other 8 planets, they're also rocky planets, but they are not, because the other remaining 4 other planets, they are referred to as the outer gas giants, which are referred to as the gaseous planets. Okay, those are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. They are called gaseous planets because they consist, or they are made up of, gases and liquids. So please do not think that all planets are rocky. We already mentioned that the only rocky planets that we have is Mercury, Mars, Earth, and Venus. And then the outer gas giants, which are the gaseous planets, those are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, as well as Neptune. All right, I hope we are still together there. And these outer gas giant planets, which are referred to as the gaseous planets, they are larger than the terrestrial planets and are further away from the sun. All right. Now that we have looked at the different types of the 2 groups of the 8 planets, remember we said we had the inner rocky planets and the gaseous planets. Now we are going to be looking at the different planets individually so that we can understand them better. So we are going to start with the first one, which is Mercury. We know that Mercury is our first planet from the sun, and it is the one that is closest to the sun. It has a very thin atmosphere, okay, and it is extremely hot during the day, and it is freezingly cold at night. All right. And then the second planet that comes next to that, please, before I talk to the second planet, let us look at the common error that you are not supposed to make. Mercury is the hottest planet. I know that because you are assuming, we are assuming that Mercury is the hottest planet because Mercury is the first planet from the sun. And you think because it's the closest to the sun, therefore it is the hottest planet, but that is not the case. The hottest planet in all the other planets, it is the second planet, which is Venus. Okay, so Venus, we said that it is the second planet from the sun. 2, it has the thick atmosphere covered in clouds. It consists of carbon dioxide gas that traps heat And the reason why Venus is the hottest planet is mainly because of that. Because its atmosphere, it is able to trap heat, and because of that, it is the hottest planet in all the other planets. And this planet, it is too hot for life to exist. All right. Now we are done talking about the first and the second planet. We are going to look at the third planet, which is planet Earth, where you and I live in. All right. So planet Earth is the third planet from the sun. It contains large amount of oxygen gas, fresh water, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen gas. Temperatures are stable to sustain and support life. And that is why planet Earth is the only planet that can sustain life. Why is that? We have carbon dioxide. Remember, plants need the carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. We also have oxygen that we get from the plants during the process of photosynthesis, and then we use the oxygen to breathe in order for life to exist on planet Earth. All right, and that is how our planet Earth looks like. And let us move on to the fourth planet, which is Mars. Now, Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. It is covered with red dust. It consists of carbon dioxide, but no liquid water. And because of that, because there is no liquid water, that tells you that in planet Mars, there is no life on Earth. In order for life to exist, there must be liquid water, because we know that plants and animals, those living things, they depend on water in order for life to exist. Now, this is the common error learners make. Learners believe that people have landed on Mars, but thus far, no one has ever landed on Mars. They do, however, send robots to assess the situation on Mars. Now that we have looked at the Earth and Mars, let us move on to the gaseous planet. The first four that I spoke about, remember, those are our inner rocky planets. Now we are looking at our gaseous planets, where the first one, which is Jupiter. But remember that Jupiter is the fifth planet from the sun, and it is the largest planet that we have in our solar system. It has the thick atmosphere that consists of hydrogen as well as helium. And due to the distance from the sun, it gets very little heat. And because of that, you know that it is cold in Jupiter. And that is how Jupiter looks like from our picture there. And then we go to the next, which is number 6, which is Saturn. And then Saturn, it is our sixth planet. It's the sixth planet from the sun, right? What do we know about it? It has a very thick atmosphere. It is also made up of hydrogen as well as helium gas. It consists of distinctive rings around it, okay? If you look at the picture, yes, if you look at some similarities between Jupiter and Saturn, you'd see that Jupiter, we did say that it consists of hydrogen and helium. Also, Saturn also consists of hydrogen and helium. But if you look at their structural differences, if you look at Saturn, it has those distinctive rings around it. From, as you see the picture there, it has the distinctive rings around it. Now, let us look at the last two planets, which is Uranus as well as Neptune. So let us look at Uranus. Uranus is our seventh planet from the sun. It has the thick atmosphere that consists of hydrogen, helium, but contains more water, ethane, and ammonia than other gas giants. Now, yes, you might say, because Uranus has water and hydrogen, it can sustain life. Remember, we need oxygen in order for life to exist, okay? So Uranus, there's no life there because there's no oxygen gas, okay? Let's move on to the 8th, which is the last planet in our solar system, which is Neptune. It is the 8th planet from the sun, and it is the furthest away from the sun, as we have seen. And then it is very cold and very dark because light cannot reach that far away from from the solar system. And the atmosphere, it is similar to Uranus. We have already said that it has a thick atmosphere. It consists of hydrogen, helium. It contains more water, methane, and ammonia than other gas giants. It also has the same atmosphere. Now let us look at the picture that I'm showing you here. Shows you how our planets are around our solar system. All right, now if we remember our sentence to help us remember which planet is which, remember we said my, this one would be our Mercury, remember this one would be our Venus, elderly, this one will be our Earth. Okay, let me just write it down. Here we said we have Mercury, okay. Next to Mercury, my this one will be Venus, and then elderly, this one will be Earth, and elderly mother, this one will be Mars, okay, just, this one will be Jupiter, served, and this one will be Saturn, and served, this is you guys, okay, let me correct my spelling, Saturn, okay, and then my very elderly mother just served us, this us here would be Uranus, and then this one would be noodles for Neptune. All right, and this is how our planets, the 8 planets, follow each other from the sun. Now, guys, remember we spoke about Pluto not being the actual planet, but we said that it has been referred as a dwarf planet, okay? Now, what you need to know is that there are 5 different dwarf planets, as shown in the picture. Now, what is a dwarf planet? It is a planet that cannot keep its path clear of other objects. Remember, we said that in order for a planet to be a planet, it must keep the path clear so that when it orbits around the sun, it doesn't collide with other objects. But remember, dwarf planets, that means that they are not able to keep their path clear of other objects. Now, up until 2006, Pluto was counted as the 9th planet in the solar system. Remember, we said that initially that was what the other books are still saying even today because they are old books. But because of the new research that was done, a new definition came defining what the planet should be, and because of that, it meant that Pluto was reclassified as a dwarf planet, okay? And then examples of other dwarf planets include the Eris, the Haumea, the Makemake, and the Ceres. If you look at the picture here, they show exactly how they look like and how big and what colors they have, right? Guys, we are done talking about planets. I hope you understood our 8 planets. You will remember our sentence. My very elderly grandmother, my very elderly mother just served us noodles. Remember that sentence is going to help you to align the planets according to the order from the sun. Now let us take an air break, guys, and when we come back, we will look at the other concept.